Okay, so if you were looking for the exact moment that music in America decided to be more than just something to dance to
Hmm.
and start being something for serious thinking, this is it.
This is absolutely it. We're talking about the 1940s. We're talking about bebop
It's
jazz.
the sound that really changed everything.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Bebop wasn't designed for parties. It was designed for art. It was, smart, incredibly fast, and totally revolutionary.
So today, our mission is to figure this all out. How did it start? Almost in secret. What do all those light and fast notes actually mean?
And most importantly, we are going to meet the three geniuses who basically invented this sound from scratch.
Yeah, this is all about how a tiny group of musicians just redefine jazz, moving it from the huge dance hall into like a late night science lab.
But science lab is the perfect way to put it. And to understand the sound, you have to start with the rebellion.
The rebellion. Okay. So this is the early 1940s.
Yep, and it's a direct reaction against what was at the time the biggest music in the world, swing and the big band era.
Wait, swing music was huge, right? It was everywhere. On the radio, people loved it. Why would you rebel against something so successful?
Because they were bored and they felt trapped. Think about a swing orchestra. It is massive, right?
Huge. Lots of musicians all playing together.
Right, and they're playing these very structured, often repetitive arrangements. The solos were short. The focus was on making it easy to dance to. A lot of these brilliant musicians felt like cogs in a machine.
So they weren't really able to show off what they could do.
Not at all. They wanted space to improvise, to really stretch out and show off the incredible skills they'd been practicing for years. They wanted to express feelings that, a simple dance beat just couldn't capture.
So they were basically saying, "Hey, we're artists here, not just background music."
That is the heart of it. And this new movement, it had to start in secret. It began super late at night in these tiny clubs in Harlem.
Places like Minton's Playhouse, right? That's the famous one.
That's the one. After these musicians would finish their, frankly, boring big band gigs downtown, they'd go uptown to these little spots and just experiment. They'd test out ideas on each other that were way too wild for a mainstream audience.
So, okay, get this. This new music was made for serious listening, not for dancing. They intentionally made it too hard to dance to. I mean, isn't that a terrible business plan?
It's a terrible business plan for entertainment, yeah. But it was a brilliant one for art. By making the music too fast and way too complex for dancing, they forced the audience to stop what they were doing and actually listen, to pay attention.
It was like a declaration of independence.
Totally. They were taking creative control back from the big record companies and orchestras. And that, right there, is why we call this the start of modern jazz.
And when you listen to it, the first thing that just smacks you in the face is the speed.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
The number one thing that defines bebop is that incredibly fast tempo. And we're not just talking fast, we're talking about pushing the physical limits of what a person can play.
Right, it's a blur of notes.
It's a musical sprint. It requires insane technical skill, just flying through these really complicated chord changes.
And it's not just fast, it's also unpredictable. Swing feels like a smooth, straight road. Bebop feels like you're on a high-speed roller coaster.
That's a perfect analogy. The rhythm in swing is steady, predictable.
Yeah.
Bebop has all these jagged, unpredictable accents. The melodies leap from super high notes to really low notes with no warning.
You really have to focus just to follow along.
You do, but the real genius, the thing that makes it truly modern, is hidden inside the harmony, the chords.
Okay, so this is where it gets a little technical, but it's super important.
It is. This is where jazz becomes harmonically complex. And the key idea here is something called extended chords.
Right, let's break that down. What is an extended chord?
So think of a basic chord in, say, pop music. It's like a simple, stable, three-story building. It has a root, a third, and a fifth note. It sounds pleasant.
Okay, simple. Got it.
What bebop musicians did was start adding extra floors to that building. The ninth, the 11th, the 13th note.
So they're building this kind of wobbly, crazy skyscraper on top of this simple little house.
Exactly. And those extra notes create tension. They make the music sound more modern, more ambiguous. It's not just happy or sad anymore. Now, a chord could sound anxious or curious or restless.
And they also started using something called chromaticism. That just sounds complicated.
It's simpler than it sounds.
Oh.
It just means playing notes that are outside the normal scale. So imagine you're playing on the white keys of a piano. Chromaticism is when you deliberately hit a black key.
So it sounds a little bit wrong.
A little bit wrong, but in a really cool, intentional way. It creates this little moment of surprise, a question mark, that the soloist then has to resolve beautifully. That dissonance became a huge part of the style.
And when you put all that speed and complexity together, the rhythm section, the piano, bass, and drums, they had to completely change how they played.
Their whole job changed. They stopped being just timekeepers.
Right.
They became active participants in the conversation.
Okay, let's break down their new roles. What about the drummer? What were they doing differently?
The drummer's main job used to be thumping the bass drum on every beat. In bebop, they shifted the timekeeping to the cymbals, which gives it a lighter, shimmering feel.
So what was the bass drum for?
For surprises.
Yeah.
They'd use it for these sudden, loud, unexpected accents. The technique was famously called dropping bombs.
Dropping bombs. That sounds intense.
It was like a rhythmic exclamation point. It added this incredible excitement and energy.
Okay, so while the drummer is dropping bombs, the bass player is kind of the anchor, right?
The bass player is the heartbeat. They had to hold it all together with a steady 4 beats per measure pulse. We call it a walking bass line. Without that, the whole thing would just fly apart.
And the pianist.
The pianist's role totally changed. They stopped playing heavy, thick chords all the time. Instead, they started comping. Yeah, short for accompany. They'd play these short, rhythmic bursts of chords, almost like they were sending musical text messages to the soloist, reacting to what they were playing in real time.
So the whole band is having this high-speed conversation.
That's exactly what it is. And that conversation is all in service of the star of the show, the soloist.
This is the big shift. In swing, it was about the huge band. In bebop, it was all about the individual genius on stage.
The song structure proves it. A typical bebop tune starts with a short, really complex melody called the head that everyone plays together.
And then
it's just a long, long series of improvised solos.
this is the ultimate test, right? The soloist has to invent a brand new melody, completely on the spot, that fits over those super complex, fast-moving chords.
It's not just jamming. It's high-pressure, real-time composition. It takes an incredible knowledge of music theory and years of practice.
And that pressure, that focus on the individual, it completely transformed the idea of a jazz musician. They went from being an entertainer to a respected solo artist, a virtuoso.
Right, just like a classical concert violinist. And everyone else in the band has to be listening so closely, reacting instantly. It makes every single performance totally unique.
Speaking of virtuosos, we have to talk about the Holy Trinity, the 3 guys who really invented this. Let's start with the man who basically created the language of modern jazz, Charlie Parker.
Bird.
Charlie Parker was an alto saxophone player, and his speed and melodic creativity they were otherworldly. When other musicians first heard him, they literally couldn't understand what he was doing.
He could just weave through those complicated chords so smoothly.
He could. He took all those complex ideas, the extended chords, the chromaticism, and turned them into these perfect, fluid musical sentences. The story is he practiced 15 hours a day for years to get there.
And his tunes, like Ornithology or Yardbird Suite, they became the new standards, the music that every serious jazz player has to learn, even today.
He single-handedly proved that jazz could be a high art form just through his sheer genius. Okay, so if Parker is the genius inventor, next we have the master organizer and the ambassador for the sound, Dizzy Gillespie.
The trumpet master. Dizzy could play these incredibly high notes with perfect clarity. He was fiery. But unlike Parker, who was often pretty withdrawn, Dizzy was a brilliant teacher and arranger.
He was the one who could explain the theory behind what Bird was doing.
Exactly. He even organized the first bebop big bands, trying to make the sound a little more accessible. And visually, he was unforgettable.
With the trumpet, right. The bell was bent, pointing straight up.
Pointing up at a 45-degree angle. But his biggest innovation might have been his interest in world music.
Ah, the Afro-Cuban connection.
That's it. His fascination with Caribbean rhythms and percussion led directly to the creation of Latin jazz. He brought this whole global element into the music.
Plus, he was a showman. His personality helped sell this really difficult music to the public.
He made it fun. And then finally you have the person who proved bebop wasn't just about playing a million notes a minute, Thelonious Monk.
The pianist. The eccentric genius.
Famously eccentric. His style was the opposite of Parker's. Where Bird was a fluid river of notes, Monk was all about space and angles. He made heavy use of silence.
Right. And these sudden clashing chords.
These dissonant chords that sound so tense and surprising. If you watch videos of him, his playing style was just bizarre. He had this flat-fingered percussive attack.
He'd even get up from the piano and do a little dance while someone else was soloing.
He would. His compositions, like Round Midnight or Blue Monk, they're legendary, but they're all about rhythmic oddness and texture. He showed that jazz was about the notes you don't play just as much as the ones you do.
So this wasn't just music you listened to, it became a whole culture.
A total cultural movement, yeah, tied to city life in New York and L.A. It was a statement.
What do you mean?
Well, the musicians and the fans, they had a specific look. Stylish suits, berets, horn-rimmed glasses. It was about showing you were modern, you were an intellectual.
And they had their own slang, too.
They did. Using words like cool and dig, it created this sense of being in an exclusive club, separate from the mainstream. It was a rebellion through music, fashion, and language.
And the place where all of this was born, the laboratory for it all, was the jam session.
Absolutely. These late-night informal get-togethers were everything.
Think of it like an intense musical competition. Musicians would get together after their regular jobs were done to test out their craziest new ideas.
And the pressure was unbelievable. The rule was basically, if you couldn't keep up with the insane speeds and the complex chords, you were told to get off the stage.
Wow, right then and there.
Right then and there. It was brutal, but it forced everyone to get better, fast. A lot of the most famous bebop songs started as spontaneous ideas in these jam sessions.
And that tradition is still central to how jazz is taught today.
It is. So what does all this mean for us now? Well, bebop laid the groundwork for almost every single style of jazz that came after it.
Hard bop, cool jazz, post bop. You can't really understand modern music without understanding bebop first.
The standards they set, both technically and harmonically, became the new baseline for what it meant to be a professional musician, and not just in jazz.
They really succeeded in shifting how people saw jazz. It went from just dance music to a respected art form.
And you can still hear the influence everywhere. Jazz schools around the world used bebop to teach improvisation. And get this, rock and fusion guitarists studied Charlie Parker's solos to learn how to play their own fast, complex solos.
That's amazing. And with modern technology, we can actually go back and listen to those old recordings. You can even use apps to slow down a bird solo and hear every single note he played.
It's an incredible resource. At the end of the day, bebop is this powerful story about how a small group of innovators working completely outside the mainstream could change the direction of an entire culture just through their creativity and dedication.
Keep listening, keep exploring. You now have the key to understanding the sound of modern art.
Good luck with your studies.